Yeah.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. This is a beautiful crowd to get started. I'm Anita Bell. Some of you are here because of my invitation. Some of you are here from invitations from other members of the Green Party. But I wanted to welcome you to Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. And as we get started, this is going to be a free-flowing program, somewhat, kind of, sort of, because it's supposed to be soul talk. So this gives you a chance to talk from your soul and also to listen with your soul. And how we do with our African traditions is that we start by pouring libations. And to honor us to do that is, I call him my play brother, Marduk Bell. And we have the same last name, but it doesn't mean the same thing. So, but yes, Marduk is going to honor us with libations right here.
And my name just happens to be Marduk Bell. That name's not important to anybody but my ancestors. I want to welcome the Green Party. You're all in the house. We appreciate you making the Michigan trip. I understand that there's some other political parties in the state. Grand Rapids, they have a representative there. They have another person, but I'm just glad to have a platform that I think is very conducive, especially to our culture, our global culture. I welcome the Green Party, so give yourselves a hand. And quickly, I'd like to pour libations because the original term for that in ancient Egypt, Kemet, is Tepawah, where the word TV comes from. And we are who we are because of those who love us. And the reason we honor our ancestors is because of that. And also, scientifically, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only transforms or transfers, like on a car battery. In the Western culture, they call it the soul. But in the motherland, they call it the ba and the ka. So we like to, and that's the energy we're living off of right now. Since energy cannot be created or destroyed. I've always asked people, first thing I say to them, get on to libations, what's the opposite of death? And most of them say, well, I was taught it was life. I say, well, no, it's not life, it's birth. Life is eternal. That's the ring. We created, our ancestors created the rings to symbolize energy. There's no beginning and there's no end. It's eternal. It just leaves this condensed energy form. And we're going to get on with the libations. Closer.
There's something interfering.
Okay. We're going to get on with the libations.
You got a ground problem.
Yeah,
Ground problem.
it's okay. All right, no problem. Ancestors in charge, no problem.
That's right.
Eternal energy. Okay, so we're going to start off pouring libations. And what I like to do is, when we do pour the libations for our ancestors, for all of our ancestors, everyone is sitting in this room. For all of our ancestors, whether they be, how should I say, very historical, distant, or some current people in your family that have made the transition, the energy. If you want to shout out their names, we can. And after we say Ashe, would you please repeat, your will to be lives in me. Your will to be lives in me. So we're going to, would you hold this one, please?
We gotta turn that on. Oh, it might be your thing. No, that metal on you. That is, because when you were holding it was no
She
problem.
said the thing, that's the ancestors having to say that. There's no such thing as coincidence.
Okay, well
This is the Ankh. This is where the original cross comes from. This is the Ankh. There's 2,000 dialects, there's many ways to say it. Inca, there's many ways to say it. What we're going to do, we're going to pour the water.
There you go.
Okay, and it's called the kabuli. And we're going to pour the water into the living flame. Okay? Because it resurrects. Go on your lawn and look, and you'll see in the northern climates, the grass is supposed to have died, But all of a sudden, in the spring, what happens to the grass that's supposedly died? What happens to it? It's resurrected again. That's the energy. Okay. So I'm going to pour water, and I'm going to say Ashe, and we'll start out. I'll just start it out. I'll just name a few ancestors so we can get on with the agenda. First ancestor I'd like to name is Kanofi. He is the father of Imhotep, who was the teacher of Hippocrates, the Greek term, which means Haru the child, Haru Picard, in the Kemetic language. We want to say Ashe.
Ashe.
Because most of the known ancestors are known because of the unknown ancestors. And I'd like to say Ida B. Wells, Harriet Tubman, Stephen Biko. I'd like to say Ashe.
Ashe.
Your will to be lives in me. And now I'll throw it out to the floor. Our humble audience. Anyone that you'd like to name?
General Taylor.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Malcolm X.
Ashe.
Che Guevara.
Ashe.
Chokwe Lumumba.
Ashe.
Bob Marley.
Ashe. Ashe.
Sam Garvey.
Ashe.
Rosa Parks.
Ashe.
Ethel Bragg.
Ashe.
John Trudell.
Ashe.
Henry Berry Lowry.
Ashe.
Angie Harris.
Ashe.
Elvin Breakfast.
Ashe.
Booker T. Washington.
Ashe.
Melvin Thompson Sr.
Ashe. Ashe. I'm sure you have an ancestor you want to name?
Ned Smoker.
Ashe.
Rahima Baldwin.
Ashe.
Sandra Bland.
Ashe.
Elizabeth Cole.
Ashe.
Tamir Rice.
Ashe.
Diane Bernard.
Ashe.
Trayvon Martin.
Ashe.
Sandra Bland.
Ashe. Francis Wilson. Ashe.
Travis Carter.
Ashe. Over there. Okay. Let's take that. Yeah. Okay. And we're going to say it all together real quickly. Their will to be lives in me. And why you honor your ancestors? Because the tree without roots, what happens to it?
Yep.
Right. So those, there's different ways that we honor the ancestors here, but that is the traditional way. And if you want to really know what a cultural event is, if it's really a cultural event, you don't have to say much. I don't care if it's involving economics, politics, polarity. We call it polarity, politics, policy. If you really want to know what that event is about, just see if they pour libations. And you just about get the tone. Okay. I mean, in your own mind, you say, okay, they didn't pour any libations. I get it. They get it. I get it. So it's very important. So I think that's essentially it. I want to thank you for your time and consideration. And hopefully you'll have a good meeting.
Yes.
Because I love the Green Party's agenda.
All right.
It's been around a long time.
Yes.
So that's why we have to come in unity and gain control of the media.
Oh,
Yes.
So the international bankers and the military
Yes.
won't call all the shots.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Ashe.
And we can stop some of this corporate violence.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? All right.
You want to run for office on the Green Party?
We'll talk about it.
All right. Thank you so much, Martin. Okay. All right. I'm going to try, if I hold it that way.
It's your cord.
Yeah, the cord.
If you just try to stay still, it's that cord.
Oh,
When you move, that cord wiggles, and that's what causes that.
that's short. Okay. But can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. All right then. So if I stay still,
Well, maybe put it on the mic then.
oh, put it on my.
I'll do it later.
Oh yeah, because I'm afraid to move now. All right. So one of the first things we want to do, because this is a soul talk, it's involving listening and it's involving talking. We're going to get to the issues because there are many issues that even in the email that I mentioned that are affecting blacks here in Detroit. So that part of why it's called Soul Talk is because we haven't been heard. We haven't been heard by the Democratic Party. We haven't been heard by the Republican Party. And even though that we're living in a chocolate city surrounded by vanilla suburbs, we're still not being heard, even though we're 80% of Detroit,
Right.
the Detroit population. When we go to some place like Highland Park, and Highland Park might be even more chocolate than Detroit is, and still not being heard. So going through things from bankruptcy to water shutoffs to water poisoning to all of these different types of issues to the schools, to our schools from Highland Park to Detroit, we want to talk about all of these things because a national candidate like Ajamu Baraka may not be familiar with all of these local issues. And we're going again to Flint to talk in depth about the things that aren't in the media about what's going on with the water. Oh, come on in. So, before we even get started with talking about those things that are important to us and having different spokespeople from the community talk about those things, I wanted Ajamu Baraka to come up here and tell us a little bit about what is the Green Party's program? Why do they even care? What do they want to listen for? Because he came all the way from originally Atlanta, right? Came all the way from Atlanta to listen to us. Why? That's money, that's time. Even though you're running for office, you got better things to do. So why do you want to listen to us? What does it mean to the Green Party to even have black voices talk? So Ajamu Baraka is the vice presidential candidate for the Green Party.
itself. It's touching your person on that mic. Is just put it in its thing. I don't think you guys should touch it. Oh man. It's a ground problem. Okay. It's a ground problem. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I know everybody's tired. I'm tired too. So. Good evening.
Yeah, what up, though?
That's a Detroit thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
DOE.
It is indeed a pleasure to be here this evening. And now it's getting worse.
It's a ground problem.
No, this is the wire.
It's a wire.
Come on, do this.
It's a ground. It's whatever they got their equipment plugged in. It's a ground problem. And it's grounded through the person, through the thing, through the... This way it's supposed to have sound back.
Ajamu, I think if you just spoke in your regular.
Yeah.
Without the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I just hold it right here.
No, it's a ground problem. That's why it's grounded through different people, different things. The system.
He's just gonna straight.
All right, we'll just turn it
Yeah.
off.
I appreciate everybody coming out this evening. I mean, it's really been a pleasure to come back to Detroit. And as my dear sister said, we do want to have a conversation, but we want to have a conversation in terms of our soul talk. And that's very important. So I want to just share a few things from my observations these last couple of months. You know, I've been moving around this country for 2 months. Now, before that, of course, I had a chance to move around and know this place as a consequence of the work that I've been doing for quite some time. But these last 2 months of having a chance to move and to see in kind of a concentrated way all this going on around this place, around this country, has really been an eye-opener. Driving over here this evening, we were just noting how it's almost like every city we go through, it looks alike. Now, Detroit is unique because, of course, Detroit reflects most of the major contradictions of late capitalism. Being the first major city in this country to basically, in essence, collapse, if you will.
Okay.
You know, and to be taken over by the corporate sector.
That's right.
Okay, so this is detrimental, because as a consequence of that, you see what we see here in Detroit, that, you know, there's no public investment in infrastructure. You see they are closing down schools and consolidating schools. You see the intensification of the policing, because whenever you have this, they call it gentrification. And I don't know about that word. That word sounds like a medical condition or something. I call it a process of urban colonization.
Okay.
But that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay? I think that better captures the relationship. So whenever you have this process of urban colonization, what goes hand in hand with that is an intensification of policing. Because now you have the police that are more concerned about providing or creating a more protective environment for this new population. And those of us who are still in our communities, who still are walking around in our communities, we now become suspects. Okay? So even though we got hassled in the past, that we get hassled even more now in those transitional neighborhoods. So, you know, we are experiencing some really devastating consequence of this new phase of capitalist development. And we are suffering because there's a certain logic in play, but we are suffering because we have not been sufficiently able to resist. There's unevenness across the country in terms of our ability to be able to protect our communities and to protect the little bit of political power that we're able to build over the last few decades. And what we see is that as a consequence of our relative institutional weaknesses, then the corporate sector, the corporate and financial ruling class, they've been very effective in getting their interests advanced. But they do it in a very traditional way. One of the genesis of the European rule over the last 500 years has been their ability to be able to divide and conquer, operate through their own elites, okay? And what we have today is a contemporary expression of that. Because how do the elites operate in these major cities here in this country where you have large concentrations of black folks and people of color? Who's in charge theoretically, politically? Of the black folks. What we call at the Black Agenda Report, the black leadership class. That's how they operate, okay? They operate through that strata. Now, that strata, I would argue, folks, if you look at black history, is relatively new. Now, we've always had, you know, class stratification somewhat in our communities. You know, we always had a black bourgeoisie, if you will, and a small petty bourgeoisie, okay? And then workers and farmers and all the rest. But there was something different back in the day, in the sense that, this is where we get confused too. In segregation, we had a bourgeoisie and a petty bourgeoisie that owed its existence to its relationship to the black community.
Yes.
That's right.
That you know, you had black business. You had black business that hired other people, okay? The black petty bourgeoisie, the preachers and the teachers and all that, you know, they were teaching us. The preachers, it was our churches, okay? So there was this organic relationship that we had in our communities, all right? And with that comes along what? Accountability, okay? So even though there was stratification, we in a way were sort of still connected because we were still involved in a codependent relationship, all right? But what happened with desegregation? since the 1950s and going into the 1960s. We had a shift in the class structure, in the relationships. You have today, I'll just jump forward. Today, if you look at the petty bourgeoisie or the middle class, okay, this expanded middle class, what is the organic relationship to a person working for IBM or Chevron or name a big corporation?
Little
Yeah.
Caesar.
General Motors.
Yeah. What is their relationship to the community? Most of them are no longer living in the community. Okay. Secondly, they have no structural connection to the community. Okay. And even those folks who run for office now, you know, their base, their social base, their base of support, you know, while we vote for them, their real base of support in terms of finance is not us.
Nope.
It's the folks downtown. Okay? The small black bourgeoisie we have, same thing. They have become a bourgeoisie as a consequence of them attaching themselves to some other larger white corporation, you know, as the junior partner. And again, they may be involved in economic activities that have no connection to our community at all. Okay? So we've had a whole shift in how the black class structure now operates. Okay? So in many ways, because of that disconnection, that lack of accountability, we have something really profoundly different. We have a situation now where we have a professional, managerial, and administrative class represented by these folks downtown in almost every major city. The new black petty bourgeoisie, who have no emotional or psychological connection to us at all. Okay? That's profoundly different.
Yes.
And we need to understand that. We have to understand that because, folks, we recognize that we are not going to be able to build real power by adopting a political program in which we allow ourselves, as we articulate the interests of the black working class and black poor people, if we allow our agenda to be hijacked by what I call pigmentation politics. Okay? When you have these folks downtown who have a whole different set of interests, they will then, though, use our common collective identity as black folks to say, look, you know, we all in the same boat. We all have the same issues, you know, and as a matter of fact, if y'all continue to support us, vote for us, we're gonna make sure we address all of our collective interests. No. We've got to have an approach to politics that recognizes, as painful as it might be, that there are real class contradictions, and these folks who represent, who occupy those class positions are, in fact, in many cases, our enemy. Now, we see this phenomenon across the country. And I know it's a difficult, probably less difficult here because in Detroit, y'all have a tradition of being able to deal with and talk about class politics. Okay, y'all are different in that sense. But I'm telling you, across the country, it's very, very difficult to engage in a conversation. That's just a reflection of the kind of political development we have to engage in, okay? Because we can't allow black and poor people, people of color, to continue to be used and confused by this black misleadership class and by the bourgeoisie.
I have a question. So what you're saying is that Obama is a mirror of what's going on the local level?
That's a very good question. Obama represents that kind of disconnect that I'm talking about. There's no organic relationship between Barack Obama and the black community. That's correct.
Right.
None whatsoever. There's no organic relationship and no accountability.
That's right.
Very correct.
So, you know, we weren't able to really exercise much control over him, especially when he's able to use, again, pigmentation politics. You know, we all black. We all should feel good about him being in the White House.
Right.
You know, and that muted our criticism, our critique of his policies, the policies he would champion, policies that basically still advance and protect the interests of the 1%.
Right.
We couldn't get to that critique because we couldn't get past the identity issue for a long time. Now people have been waking up these last few years, but you know, there was a time that there's only a few of us. Now, how many people read Black Agenda Report?
Yes.
There's only a few of us, you know, who wrote for, you know, like Black Agenda Report and Counterpunch, you know, they had the nerve to raise the contradiction, to raise the critique. And why it's easier to do it now, I'm gonna tell you, many of us caught hell. Glenn Ford and Bruce Dixon, even before I joined it in 2010, they caught holy hell by criticizing our first black president. It was very difficult. In fact, people want to fight you sometimes.
Yep.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact. So now I'm laying all that out to say that basically that structure and that lack of accountability is reflected in our politics. It's reflected in the fact that we have not been clear and critical about the fact that around the country we have this phenomenon of us being evicted from the inner city cores, where they are shutting down our schools, where they are over-policing our communities and killing our folks, where they are shutting down hospitals, okay? Where they are putting toxic waste dumps in our communities. You know,
Fracking.
all of these things are taking place in our communities under administrations that are black and Democrat. Okay. So what we are saying and what I have observed across this country is that the enemy of most black and poor people in this country, and not just those obvious right-wing Republicans, and of course they give us some very convenient targets, but the enemies we've got to identify, in fact, as the enemies, are these black and white Democrats.
Yes. Thank you. Dem exit.
And we got the Uncle Tom Latinos also we got to deal with. You know.
And the American Indians in North Dakota.
Exactly.
Which aren't getting hardly any media at all except.
None whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the Native folks are the highest percentage of folks who are being murdered by police in this country. We don't talk about that enough. So we have the basis of a real fight back. You know, when we talk about the black working class and poor people, we talk about Latinos, we talk about indigenous, we talk about radical LGBTQ folks. And I say radical because there's no automatic, we make this automatic assumption because if you're LGBTQ, you're supposed to be automatically progressive. No. It's about your politics also,
Yeah.
okay? We have the basis for a new people's movement.
That's true.
But we've got to be clear and principled and courageous to identify what we're up against, okay?
Yep.
And so we're saying that this Green Party process we are involved in, this is a process of opposition. It's a process of attempting to try to organize this potential opposition, this new people's movement. And we're not suggesting we are the new movement. We're suggesting that there is motion taking place around this country. And many of us know it and have seen it. You know, there are people involved in some tremendous kinds of fightbacks. There are these developing social movements here in this country. And many people now, as part of a broader strategy, are looking at how they can relate and use perhaps the electoral system as a site of struggle. And we're saying that if folks are looking at that in a serious way, they need to have an instrument that's in place. And the Green Party's been around for a few decades. We have apparatuses across the country. And we're saying that this might be an apparatus you might want to take a look at if you want to look at the possibility of engaging the state in that way. So this campaign that we are a part of is a campaign to not only win people over to vote for us on November the 8th, that's important, but we are talking about building alternative power. We're talking about building an instrument for real transformative politics here in this country, okay? We're talking about linking up with social movements across this country. We're doing that because we recognize that we are involved in a protracted struggle for revolutionary change. And we've got to be creative in that process. You know, we were pouring libations, and someone raised up Brother Chokwe Lumumba from Jackson, Mississippi. Many of us know about that example, where you had Brother Lumumba, who's from Detroit, who went down to the southern region, place where I organized and I'm from also. And they went into Jackson and they got rooted. The New African People's Organization, Malcolm X grassroots movement, they rooted themselves and organized. And at one point decided to take a look at the electoral process as a space where they can contest local power. And they ran Brother Lumumba. And he won and became a member of the city council. And they made some progress and continued to organize, build their base, expand their base. And they decided to run for the top spot, the mayor spot. And they won. That's right. Okay? And now for the first time, we had an opportunity at a city level to experiment with how we could use a space like that to advance progressive politics. And what was also so great about that experience was this. For many years, people who are revolutionary, I'm not going to say call themselves revolutionary, but who are revolutionary, embrace revolutionary politics, there was this, and I don't know where it came from, this notion that if you are a true revolutionary, you just don't deal with electoral politics. You don't deal with bourgeois politics, you know. That's like, you know, and I can never understand where that came from. Because there's no theoretical basis for that. Because I come from a tradition of critical thinking, and I'm looking at, for me, whether or not you engage the bourgeois state, that's nothing but a strategic question, not a question of principles. Okay? So many people who were looking critically at the electoral process and wondering if we can access it and use it, they were still held back because they didn't want to be criticized as having some petty bourgeois tendencies, you know? So you just left it alone, you know? But now with Brother Lumumba and Malcolm X grassroots movement, you know, having this breakthrough, you know, who's gonna criticize Brother Lumumba as some kind of petty bourgeois deviationist? It couldn't happen. So it freed us up to look at this critically and see how we can in fact do that and maybe replicate that in other places. And again, this is not the end of a process, winning these offices. It's part of a process of building alternative popular power, okay? You know, but as we all know, tragically, 6 months into his tenure, the brother passed. So we lost that space. But you know, folks are still organizing. We have a formation in Jackson, Cooperation Jackson, that is attempting to carry on with that work and that tradition. I was on the board of directors of that until I was asked to join this campaign. And as soon as the campaign is over, if we don't win, I'm going back to that board. But we are still going to continue that work. And Brother Chokwe's son, Antar, is going to probably contest again for the top spot. So, you know, I wasn't supposed to talk a long time, so please forgive me. But I just wanted to set this up in terms of you know, why are we doing what we're doing, okay? This is not about some kind of a ego thing. I mean, this is something, my brother was saying to me, you know, I never thought that I'd be involved in something like this at this level. Again, I always saw possibilities with the electoral process, but not running as a candidate, okay? But I'm in it now, and I'm having an opportunity to really look at this in a very critical way. And I'm not even though I'm doing this, I still have some critical ideas and notions about how we in fact do this and be more effective, okay? It's clear to me that we have spaces we can exploit. I'm not sure about how much time we put into the national runs, okay? But, you know, what we're trying to do with this campaign is to use this campaign to build local power, okay? And so I'm sharing with you my observations moving around this country. and sharing with you the fact that people are in motion and that people are looking at this whole electoral process in a new kind of way. And we have people who are running at every level of government. But I'm also sharing with you that as black folks, you know, we've got to understand that we've got to disconnect from this Democrat Party.
Yes.
Because, you know, our folks are confused.
Yep.
And our folks are scared, and it's understandable.
Right.
You know, they did a very effective job in galvanizing this fear.
Yep.
For Trump.
Yep.
But we have to remind people that, you know what? If Trump wins, we got to struggle. No question about that.
Mm-hmm.
If Clinton wins, we got
to struggle. Amen.
And so, in a way, it's almost like, for me, it's almost like the real question becomes, since we know we've got to continue to struggle, the real question becomes, where will our allies be? Because if history is a guide, when you look at what occurred under Barack Obama,
That's right.
there was no opposition. That basically folks went to sleep.
Yep.
You know, people say, "Oh, we're gonna keep Barack Obama accountable." BS. They didn't do anything.
That was the strategy.
Yeah. So basically, if we are facing these conditions we are facing, if there is a certain logic in capital right now that's causing us to be evicted, that is resulting in us being oppressed and our human rights violated, doesn't that suggest, if you have Hillary Clinton, who is clearly committed to the same kinds of status quo politics, the same kind of neoliberal trickle-down economics, doesn't that suggest it's going to be a continuation of the same?
Right.
So, you know, we got to wake folks up and have people understand that basically we don't need to be concerned or scared about Donald Trump. What we got to be concerned about is our lack of power. We got to be committed to building real alternative independent power. And 2016 is just as good a year as any to start that process.
That's right. That's right.
So folks, I'm going to take my seat and we can have a conversation. But I just wanted to lay that out. That basically, you know, this is the terms as I see it. You know, it's a very difficult road we have to go on, and you know, I take the position that I don't tell any lies, and I tell people that basically, you know, we're gonna win. There's no question about that. But things are gonna get worse before they get better.
Yes.
Okay. It's gonna be the case. So we have some real struggle ahead of us. This campaign is a campaign in which we're telling people that we've got to register opposition. We've got to build this alternative power. We've got to talk about the hard issues. We've got to remind people that not only do we have the possibility of continued neoliberal trickle-down economics, we also have to deal with the fact that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats represent the commitment to war.
Yes.
Okay? And therefore, a vote for Hillary Clinton is in essence a vote for war, for more militarism and more war. So there has to be some kind of opposition to that. And we say that we register that opposition by voting green and building an apparatus that can basically take the struggle forward. Thank you.